very good afternoon. So thank you so much everyone for being here. We will start in sharp 2 minutes. Thank you. Hello all, very good afternoon. So before I start, just wanted to know if I'm loud and clear.
Yes, Ekta.
Yeah, okay. So hello all, a very good afternoon. Myself, Ekta Sidube, on behalf of the Analytics team and our title partner, Exotel, we welcome you all on our roundtable BPO Digital Transformation Impact Talks. So before we start our roundtable, there are a few guidelines that I would quickly like to highlight and make you people aware of. Requesting all the attendees to be on mute when the speakers are taking the sessions. Of course, we're going to encourage Q&A after each session where the attendees can ask questions, if any, to the respective speakers. The guidelines are as simple. You need to raise your hands, unmute yourself on your video, introduce yourself, and put your questions to our concerned thought leaders. So before I start, I'm glad to introduce our partner, Exotel. Exotel is one of the Asia's largest cloud telephony companies, working with 4,500 plus businesses, including top enterprises and startups. They solve communication problems for various industries, be it like automobile, e-commerce, cab aggregators, BPO, BFSI, or Fintech companies. Exotel is a secure and a reliable business phone system on the cloud. Simple to set up, no additional infrastructure or equipment required, enable sales and support teams irrespective of where they work from. So not taking much time, I'm happy to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Raman MK, Head of ABM with Exotel, and he's here with us today to share some interesting insights on adoption of cloud communication to transform BPO operations. Raman, thank you so much for being with us today, and over to you.
Hey guys, thank you so much, Ekta, for the introduction. Let me just quickly share my screen. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yeah, Raman, it's loading.
Yeah. Okay.
It has not loaded yet. But
not on the screen, but yeah, it's done.
It is not?
Raman.
Yeah, it's now. It's there now.
Yeah, now visible. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Hey guys. Firstly, thank you so much, Ekta, for introducing me and Exotel to the audience here. And thank you everyone for taking time on a Friday. I know all of us will be ready to jump on a weekend. But anyway, here we are. I will not take much of your time. So we're going to be talking about, like Ekta mentioned, we're going to be primarily talking about how not just cloud communication, how customer communication is actually changing in the BPO segment, right? Let's get started. In fact, you're able to see my next slide, right? If I'm not wrong, just asking.
No, Raman, we're still on the first slide.
I think there's a bit of latency.
Yeah, there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there now.
Okay, super. Before we get started, let me just quickly introduce myself. My name is Raman. I've been working with Exotel for almost 7 years now. In fact, I basically head the enterprise marketing team there. I take care of specifically ABM efforts at Exotel. In fact, my primary role is to engage with top enterprises across various markets that we work with, be it India, Southeast Asia, or other growing markets, to basically interact with top enterprises and try to see how we can empower their communication platform. So that's specifically what I do, right? So, I mean, without any delay, we'll just get started with what we're going to do today, or what we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to be primarily talking about three things, right? Again, the first thing that I want to talk about is scaling the entire remote business. I mean, a lot has changed in the last couple of years. We'll be talking about how we can actually scale given the current systems, right? And how primarily we'll look at specific points of how AI and automation can actually help in this process. And at the same time, we'll also talk about some of the new tech or some of the new opportunities that is there with respect to remote support, right? Remote support or sales or anything to that matter, right? So we'll talk about specifically these points. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, one second. Oh, I think my agenda screen also was next. Okay, anyway, sorry again. In fact, this is, I mean, we actually live in a new world, right? I mean, something that the pandemic has done to us is that it's completely changed the way companies are functioning, the way we are doing this webinar, for instance, and the way customers are actually looking at communication with respect to companies. So, in fact, the expectation itself has changed, right? And in fact, some of these changes are there to stay, and they're not going to go back to old ways. Though few things might go back to always, some of these changes are there to stay, right? That is something that we've actually identified, having spoken to a lot of customers, having spoken to a lot of businesses about communication.
Raman, just a moment. I think your screen is partially visible. Can you maybe just stop sharing and start sharing?
Yes.
Now?
Yeah, it's there, but yeah, I think it's much better.
If you can reshare, I guess.
Yeah.
Is it better now?
It's loading. Yeah, I think, yeah, it's full there.
Now it's better.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, like I was saying, again, primarily, how has it changed, right? In fact, here are the three things in which basically the way, in fact, the customer behavior has actually been changed when it actually comes to customer engagement. And in that customer engagement space, these are the three major things that has actually changed in the last few years or so, right? So in fact, one of them is one of them being the workforce being more hybrid now. In fact, you have people working from home, some people working from office, some people and people using on-prem solutions, people using cloud solutions, people using hybrid solutions. This is one major change that has happened, right? In fact, and all of these people are going to be communicating with the customer across channels. It could be voice, it could be chat, it could be SMS, it could be WhatsApp. And in fact, customers also expect us to be available on all these channels. That is one major change that has happened, right? In fact, those are the first 2 points. And the other one, in fact, all of us have been talking talking about AI, natural language processing, how can this be used in real life context, and what is the capability of, and is there a way to view all the customer journey as one platform from a single point of view, which is what we call CDP, right? Customer data platform. And a lot of talks have been going around this as well, right? In fact, in the customer engagement space and in our experience, these are some of the things that are actually causing changes, basically changes in the processes and actually the businesses, and the way businesses are actually looking at communication. Just 1 second. All right. Okay. So when we talk about remote businesses, right? I mean, not in just not in the context of today's happenings, but with respect to the irreversible changes that I just spoke about, we're going to be talking about two things today. One, the first thing being the AI and automation part, right? In fact, there has definitely been a lot of adoption in this particular space. Something that most BPOs are actually looking to do or is looking to is how they can actually handle more with less, or how they can do a lot more with a lesser workforce, right? That is something that most people are looking to do at this point. And this is exactly where AI and automation will actually be able to play a crucial role. And the second thing that we will be talking about today is also basically how remote support and sales could actually be improved using various technologies or various solutions that are in the industry at this point, right? And this is something that most of the companies that are looking to adopt or have already adopted, right? So in fact, these have been some of our learnings in the BPO space, and that is what I'm going to be sharing. Just a second.
Raman,
Yeah.
maybe you can try switching off your video. That might help, because there's some lag in your voice as well.
I think there is a India-wide Airtel outage also going on. So if you're on Airtel, there might be an issue.
Yeah, I am on
Okay.
Airtel. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yeah. Now it's clear, Raman.
Okay, super. Okay, first let's talk about the entire AI and the automation space, right? In fact, like I mentioned before, there has been a lot of development and adoption in this particular space. But I want to specifically talk about some of the real life examples that might actually add value to your current processes today. In fact, one of the common challenge that most BPOs come to us, or most companies in general with customer service team who comes to us, are how can they actually replicate what some of their, like one of the issues that I'm talking about here is how can they actually replicate the best the efforts put by the best salesperson or the support agent to the rest of the team, right? In fact, this is something that we've been exploring with most customers. How we actually try to do this is that we actually try to see how AI can be used, or how AI can be used to find out exactly what are the words used by the best performing agent, and try to learn in the process, and try to see how this can actually be used in every scenario. Like for example, imagine I'm an agent, I'm answering a call, and I'm talking to a customer. Now, if the system can actually detect what exactly the customer's emotions are and prompt the right words to use to the customer to basically smoothen the entire communication. So that is one of the most or is an interesting solution that is being running around in the industry right now, right? The other challenge also, if you think about it, is that again, there are n number of queries that come in as a support query, right? And if you think about it, at least 60 to 70% of them are very, very repetitive in nature. In fact, here when we actually use a mix of AI and voice bots. So for example, understanding exactly the times at which some of these repetitive calls are coming in, and understanding exactly what these repetitive tasks are coming in, you can actually now club this with both AI and voice bots to actually seamlessly answer most of these queries in a completely automated way. So and involve an agent only when there is a requirement, and not again, and that involvement also should happen in a very smooth way. So this is something that most companies are looking to do at this point, using specifically AI and automation, and like, and all of this available in a single platform, and being able to view all of this in a 360-degree view, using across all channels. So imagine a customer has actually tweeted about a particular issue, or say has raised a similar issue on, say, chat or WhatsApp or any other channel, and now when he or she calls on the support number, imagine all that information is also available to the agent, with an AI layer on top of it, to prompt exactly what the issue is and how this can be solved, so that the agent can actually now have a very contextual conversation with the customer. So that would be an ideal customer experience, if you ask me. Yeah. Just one second. Now, in fact, let's actually talk about the second part, right? That is, while AI and automation is one thing, the other thing that I want to talk about is, this is one other very interesting tech that is actually being used, or interesting solution that's being floated around in this particular space. In fact, from our recent experience, one of the popular ones is basically providing remote assistance using something called a co-browsing solution, right? In fact, for most of us digital savvy folks, remote assistance might sound a bit trivial, but however, it might not really be the case, right? In fact, when I myself am filling my tax return forms, I would ideally want to speak to a finance person while on the call, right?
Raman, sorry to again cut you in between. Again, I think we see a partial screen. Yeah, now it's okay. Now it's okay.
I'm so sorry. There's been a lot of
I think
issue here.
Do you want me to share my screen and you can go ahead with that?
Happening actually. The screen comes and goes and it hunks. So
okay, that would be good. Anumatra, if you could share this.
Just a moment. Let me just share my screen. Okay.
So sorry, folks.
Or maybe Ekta, you could distribute the PDF version of this just in case we have.
Sure, I would ask Raman to share with me post event, and I would be doing that. Yeah.
Definitely.
Is it properly visible right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Post the event, I would be sharing the details with you all. So that would be that one.
Okay. Are you able to see the screen, all of you? Yeah. All right. Okay. We'll get started. All right, guys. So, I mean, what I was trying to basically convey here is that, imagine being able to provide like support to a person while on call with the person, and while assisting the person while he or she is on the screen, right? This is something that is actually being used by most of the BPOs or most of the customer service teams at this point in time. And this could actually mean a lot of things, both for the customer and for the company. In fact, for the customer, like basically this sort of remote assistant can actually bring in better conversion rates, faster resolution, and overall a much better customer experience. In fact, majorly without any download on the customer side or even the company side, we are actually now able to solve the query of the customer in the most seamless manner and in a very speedy way. So this actually, when combined with automation solutions, would actually result in a bunch of advantages. In fact, we'll actually see them. Anumatra, if you can go to the next slide. You can just put the entire slide. Yeah. In fact, these are some of the benefits that you could actually derive from combining such solutions with a lot of automations and AI. In like some of them being round the clock support, and the other one being reducing the entire support cost, right? This will also increase in basically deflection of all your queries. So in fact, when most of the customers who are actually stuck on IVR for a very, very long time can now actually be diverted to one of these routes to increase their entire customer satisfaction and their resolution as well. So these are some of the advantages of using such a system. Anamitra, if you can just go to the next. One other thing that I wanted to talk about was also so in fact, at Exotel, we actually recently got the MVNO license as well. In fact, now Exotel is the only 100% compliant cloud operator. What does this mean, right? Now you can actually truly go infraless. So without any infra or without any physical lines or without any VPN access, now you would be actually able to provide basically communication to your customers, that is VoIP and PSTN intermixing. That is, your agents can be anywhere, and without any infra, now they can actually call your customers seamlessly with just a calling widget on your platform. So all your agents would need is a software that they can potentially use to talk to your customer. I mean, what does this mean, right? In fact, this means flexibility. That is, like I said, your agents can work from anywhere, from any device, with just a minimum internet, as long as it's minimum internet enabled on their device. And also, this would mean that it's a one-stop shop, right? So you can actually look at various platforms, various channels, all of them on just one platform. It's not, you don't have to use a separate vendor for chat. You don't have to use separate vendor for like say a different channel voice, separate channel for SMS, and etc. All of this could actually be embedded on one platform. And of course, it would be most affordable because one leg is always on the internet and the other leg is the only one that's going to be on PSTN. Since it's infraless, you will not have to invest on any basically capex and your own numbers. That is like all these numbers that you're going to be using as a front will be completely owned by you. So that way, these numbers will remain with you till you use the service. So in fact, some of the biggest advantages of us getting the MVNO license, and this is something that we've been working with some of the BPOs for. On to the next slide. In fact, some of the customers that we work with right now are, you can just put the complete size. So both Infosys and Wipro. In fact, we work with them primarily for some of the use cases that I mentioned, being basically supporting them with respect to co-browsing, supporting them with respect to just one second. Yeah, supporting them with respect to co-browsing and automating most of their chat functions and seamlessly combining this chat function with their entire telephony team as well. These are things that we've been doing for BPOs like Infosys, Wipro, and few other players. Again, we can probably talk about the details. Some of you might already be here, and some of you who would want to know more details, we can talk offline definitely. Moving on to the next slide. So something that we've been trying to do at Exotel is that this is something that we've been trying to do now. In fact, we are actually the largest customer engagement platform in India right now. We basically offer a cloud contact center, a cloud phone. When I say cloud contact center, it could be on cloud, hybrid, on-prem, or a mix of all of them, and a cloud phone followed by a cloud platform. When I say cloud platform, I'm talking about basically all the calls that happens between your on-field teams and customers. You might have received calls from your Swiggy delivery person or a Flipkart delivery person or your Dunzo person. All these calls can now actually be powered on your cloud seamlessly, which is also integrated with your internal support system as well. When I say cloud phone, imagine basically replacing all your desk phones with, say, just a software right on your laptop. So that is what I'm talking about. Now, imagine all of this available across all channels, be it voice, be it video, be it chat, be it again SMS, any email, and etc. Any platform. And and a layer of say AI, voice bot, and chatbot running through across all of them. So this is something that we've been doing, and we're using all this information to also provide something called CDP, what we spoke about initially. Again, the idea is to give one point of view on the entire customer journey. Say, for example, if, like I told you earlier, say I come on WhatsApp and say I try calling, you should still be able to view exactly where all are the channels that I came through or the customer came through. So all of that would be able to, basically you'll be able to use all the data, crunch all the data, and give a very presentable view for the agent who's talking to the customer and for the company itself. So which can actually derive a lot of insights from. So this is something that we've been trying to do. In fact, the next video actually tells you about all of this that I just spoke about. If you can just play the video on Mitra.
I'll just play the video. Let me just quickly share my sound as well. Can you please confirm if you can hear the audio?
No.
It's audible?
No, Mitra, can't hear the audio.
Is it now?
No, Anamitra, we can't hear the audio.
Could you hear the sound now?
No,
Anamitra, not able.
can't.
What I would suggest, Anamitra, meanwhile, if we can start with the panel, you can download and we can play it later on at around, before the Q&A session.
Sure.
You can paste the link of this video if it's on YouTube, which it looks like, in the chat box. So some of us can then maybe.
Yeah, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, I'll do that as well. Then Raman will quickly move on to the next slide then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess, so in fact, so we've been actually working with some of the top enterprises, again, across BFSI, across years, across cab aggregators, across various industries. We've been powering all the customer engagement, be it providing a cloud platform, be it providing a hybrid platform, on-platform, or providing a complete cloud phone solution and a contact center solution, etc. So this is something that we've been doing for past 11 years or so. And now having combined with basically having merged with a couple of entities, we are able to actually provide all the suits that any company needs across all channels. So that is something that we've been doing for some of these companies that you can see here. And so basically, yeah, so this is what we've been doing. So I hope I was able to bring in some insights. So if you guys have any questions, you can ask me now.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Raman, for sharing interesting insights. So as I've mentioned on the chat box, if you guys have any questions, please, we can take one question, and rest of the questions you can mention on the chat box, where we have Anamitra and Raman, who you'll be taking care during the Q&A session. So any questions, you can raise your hands, as I've already mentioned the guidelines. So I think we should start with the panel.
Yeah, we can probably.
Yeah, sorry, anyone, any question? Okay. So what I think is we can start with the roundtable discussion, and meanwhile, we might have interesting insights from the thought leaders. So there might be a lot of questions coming in from our audiences as well. So yes, thank you, Raman, once again so much for being here and sharing insights on the topic. And moving forward to our interesting roundtable discussion, which focuses on reimagining the BPO operation using cloud communication. And today we have wonderful sets of thought leaders, and I would like to introduce them one by one. We have Mr. Yahya Rashid, Global Head of L&D and Quality Digital Workplace at CL. We have Mr. Vivek Bhatia, EVP Operations with Teleperformance. Yes, okay. We have Mr. Harshdeep Singh Grewal, Head Customer Engagement with Mahindra Integrated Business Solutions Private Limited. Requesting you all to please be on mute. We have Mr. Reenu Rajesh. He is the Vice President, Digital and Business Transformation Services with Connect Business Solutions Limited. Mr. Sudhanshu Solanki, Senior AVP, FBB Digital Transformation and Solutions with XEXL. We have Mr. Rajiv Manalal Gupta, MD and founder with Work Expertise Group. Mr. Pranav Trivedi, Vice President, IT Infrastructure and Managed Services with Excellence. Mr. Bharatwaj Ranganathan, APAC, Head of FPIA Consulting with Capgemini India. And now I would like to introduce our moderator, Mr. Anamitra Ghosh, Lead ABM with Exotel. So Anamitra, now over to you to start with the roundtable discussion with interesting set of thought leaders. And thank you so much everyone for taking out your time today.
Thank you so much, Ekta, for the introduction. And once again, thank you everyone for taking out time today and having this conversation and ready to share your insights with all of us. So it's a very interesting point of time that we are in right now. And especially with the pandemic, I think, though it had a lot of downsides, but if we try to focus on the upsides of it, we have also seen a lot of industries have grown, especially the BPO sector. And among the BPO sector, 70% of it compromises of contact centers, right? So in that scenario, telecom communication plays a huge role. And through cloud, as I think Raman was illustrating to us, how we can make it more efficient. So my first question would be to Mr. Vivek Bhatia. If you could share some light on how do you think cloud telephony plays a major role, especially in enabling a hybrid sort of model, and where you can also have a complete visibility on the workforce that is working from different parts of the country as of now. So would like to hear from you, Mr. Bhatia.
Sure. Thanks, Amita. Thank you, Ekta. And good afternoon to everybody, colleagues of the industry. I think this is, the last 23 months has been, caused a lot of upheaval in our personal and professional life. And what we are discussing today is, sort of, how should I say, the most relevant kind of enabler for at least our industry, which has been focused mostly on building large infrastructure, large float plates, large complexes of, hundreds and thousands of people to be able to service the end customer. The technology that we are discussing in the hybrid working models, these are critical to our survival. I think right now we are looking at the new normal, which is going to be somewhere having a mix of hybrid and maybe move towards a much more mature model, which also the West always had the work from home model, and their technology enabled them to do that. And with the regulators here, the DOT, TRAI also, making it easier for us in the sense, the industry to be able to work from home as part of regulation. This has really allowed not for us to be able to service the customer better, but also be able to get talent from places who cannot come to your office. I think that's absolutely been the right discovery for, I would say, most of us. Scale up of operations or the spread of operations has been many more cities than it used to be. And yes, I think without the technology enablement and what Exotel is doing here and other partners, suppliers are doing, and a lot of startups in the last couple of years are doing, is to enable us to be able to service the end customer better. So yes, I think as we move forward, this is going to be part of our DNA. This has to become much more refined. Ironically, we had some network issues on this call, but I think as we move forward, all of this will get much better for the industry to be able to give a much more seamless experience, and not just omni-channel, but a seamless experience, irrespective from where the customer is coming and from where we are servicing the customer. So yeah, those are my thoughts, and I will leave it to some of the other industry colleagues to chip in if I missed something out.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Bhatia. That was really insightful. So now next I'll move on to Barry and want to understand that how do you see the BPO operations overall shaping up? Because as we have been discussing, and this is on the top of our minds, that things are not the way it used to be. So what is your take on that? What are your insights?
So things are not going to be the way they were ever. I think
Yeah.
that's a reality we have to cope with. But so here's the deal. I think the new normal is coming in. There will be certain segments of our BPO which will probably work maybe 3 days a week, and some of them will work 2 days a week as well, and part of that from an office. One of the biggest disruptors which we are seeing at this point of time in the industry is the great resignations are happening. People are relooking and rethinking their priorities, actually rethinking their lives very differently from what people used to do it 24 months ago. So that is the biggest change which we all have to address. So far, these 2 years have gone by. People have struggled, challenged, and lifted their head above the water. But what is slowly seeping into the industry at this point of time, from my perspective, is that there is unfamiliarity with your teams. 2 years ago, when we started the pandemic, we knew everybody, except that now we were all virtual. Today, it is you have to connect with strangers, quite literally. Somebody joins your organizations based upon a couple of video calls, and you have no clue how this guy is different. You only have an online presence. You have never physical connects have missed. So we have to reinvent that way of onboarding and getting familiar with people. I think that's going to be the big game changer for all of us in BPO. That is what is going to help bring value to the customer, because that employee base, which we are very proud of as all BPOs to deliver, now that is slightly shaking in this new normal. And this new normal is here to stay. I think people, how much ever they say they want to come back to work, but they don't want to come back full time to work. They want to only come back very partially to work. I think that's a reality we have to all accept, and we have to work with that. But in my view, a stronger onboarding and stronger catch up on the value chain. Because of pandemic, change management has been on fast forward. People are adapting to change despite they were not wanting to adapt to it, quite literally. Okay, so being the tip of the spear is very, very important for the industry right now, because that's the only way we will continue to reinvent ourselves. Because hey, after 2 years, we can't call this a crisis anymore. We should be used to it. This is like staying near the Bay of Bengal and thinking that the storm will come only once in 5 years. No, this is there for now, and it is going to be there for a long, long time. As I see it, it's not going to go away. It's going to really, yeah. But the employment opportunities, the scale of business is amazingly high because of it today, because we are a global workforce. I think those things are a big positive. But the moot is, how do we build more employee engagement within ourselves? How do we build that customer rapport also online? These are two things which we have to, these are like the two reins to a horse kind of a thing. You can't hold one loosely and one strongly. We have to hold this both strongly to be able to ride through all of this into the future. And that's my 2 bits on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the live example is that we are all sitting at different parts of the country and having this conversation. But if we were planning this discussion maybe in 2018 or 19, we would have gathered at a place where there would have been a live audience sitting there, and then we would have been discussing this. And I think that's also advantageous to a point, because today is my best friend's wedding. I would have missed it, but I'm sitting here in the venue conducting and moderating this session, which I do not want to miss out on as well.
No, there are some of us who would have missed the wedding, and there are some of us who would have missed the session, right? So that's the new that's the new thinking which is coming in. What do you call it as the current new normal? We are not
Exactly.
all of us are not missing both of that. That's the key thing which we have to look at.
Yeah. So I think with the Marvel comics bringing in multiverse, we can actually now exist in different realities where we can balance things out. And as we're talking about the future of BPO, let me quickly now go to Mr. Solanki uh, to understand from you with your experience, what do you think the future is going to look like? What do you think how technologies are going to evolve? And make us effectively kind of like, especially the employees, because I think India is a country where almost around 1 million people are employed in the BPO sector, right? And it is going to grow because the world prefers India for business process outsourcing, right? So do you think as employees, they would be able to choose a location of their choice, maybe from the mountains or the beaches, sitting there with minimal infrastructure, and most importantly, a decent internet connection to carry out the business operations that they are supposed to? Over to you, Mr. Salah.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Well, it's not just I think. This is what I've been experiencing, that yes, people have anyways opted out and moved to their preferences, to the places where they like the most. I myself have spent about 20 plus days sitting near Kasol and operating out of that place. And the next venture I'm hoping out to be, it's somewhere near Goa by mid of January. So this has already began. And yes, fun with work, what we were missing earlier, this is now being inculcated as part of new normal. But yes, I completely agree with Barry. The risk that I foresee going forward is the relationship. Until this new normal that came in, we all have developed a good relationship with people. And we all know that all industry, that it works on relationship. Right today, if I need to hire a specific skill set, I just have to drop a message on LinkedIn or in a couple of my WhatsApp groups, and I'm sure that I will get somebody who is trustworthy and being tested by someone whom I can just rely on without even putting my head in an trust factor at stake. But yes, going forward, especially the newbies whom we hire people basis the skill set, what is needed now. Over a period of time, there is a lot that you learn while being into the role. So for example, when I started my career 18 years ago as an agent, I was hired only basis my communication skills, whether can I take a call and solve a customer query over the phone or not. But yes, over and above, skills such as how to make a PowerPoint presentation, how to work on Excel, how to manage people. These things I learned while being into the role, while working with the companies, sitting with people. So sitting with WFM team, I learned how to do capacity planning. I learned how to roster people, so on and so forth. So these are the things, the skills which I acquired, which was outside my purview, and which is helping me today in driving and making a better decisions, right? But if you continue to hire people online with the skill set what is needed today, how we will add more skills virtually, that is a challenge that I foresee. But yes, looking forward for some inputs, how other people being managing this. Yes, good thing is we've been able to control our attrition to quite an extent, especially in the role of digital transformation and Lean Six Sigma. We've been facing difficulties in identifying a talent for a specific location. So if let's say I have to hire someone in Kochi or Bangalore or in Gurgaon, the location is no longer a challenge. If I'm finding a good talent, irrespective any part of the globe, I'm happy to take that person on board and we can crack a good deal. But yes, over a period of time, how to get that person upskilled and ensure there is a proper relationship that gets ongoing, that I foresee a challenge, and looking forward to hear some inputs from people that how we could curb this out.
Thank you, Mr. Solanki. So now I will quickly go to Mr. Singh Rewal and want to understand from you, what do you think are the ways, or I think Mr. Solanki already asked a question, that how to control this attrition, or how the trend is going to be, and what are the effective tools that how you can curve that, right? So if you could share some insights on that.
Yeah, and I think valid questions, a lot of insights about, tools that Raman already mentioned, right? Vivek mentioned how it is changing. And Patty and me, I think we've been on different forums some months ago and discussing about all of this as well. So I think lot part from ease of doing business and servicing a client, I think while handled by technology, right? Hiring the right kind of people today, I think, yeah, is one of the areas where we're working on. Okay. So I think a lot has changed in how we traditionally used to probably meet people face to face, bring them, read body language, read their answers, all of that. I think in the virtual scenario, a whole lot of things have changed. What we've adapted over a period of time is, we've adapted some aptitude tests that we conduct for people while they're online, right? And these are all, managed and can be read basis what the person's going to think, what he's going to deliver, and whether he fits the mindset and the skill set that we're taking people for. And using a lot of, I think, AI-based inputs on how our existing people have rated on them, who are best performers, and how do the new hires that we're bringing in, rate or rank against their performances, which is helping us hiring better people. I think that's one. Unlike, I think, what we used to ask earlier, I think we're asking a whole lot of technology-related questions to people, whether what's the internet he uses, whether he has a system or not, and how many rooms does he have? Does he have like place where he can work secluded out of his house? But yeah, I think location has become irrelevant today for us, right? And I mean, we have people who we've onboarded where we do not have an office in the country as well. That's the advantage that we have today, right? So like Sudhanshu mentioned, right, we don't care where he is. I don't even need him to come to my physical office. The onboarding processes have changed, right? Logistics work out all the infra and IT equipment that we need to pass on. We have a vendor tie-up across cities, right, that can cater to tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 as well, right? So that's not a challenge. And cloud telephony, I think, makes it easy. All you need is basic internet. You plug into a system and you're ready. And various online learning tools that we've engaged, which also read their responses as to how they behave throughout the course for us to know who's going to be best fit for what skill set, right? We all have multi-channel businesses, right? Voice, non-voice chats, etc. So you can evaluate over a period how these guys, best fit to you. And I think that's the name of the game. I think like Barry mentioned and some of the colleagues have mentioned, I don't think we're going to go back to our traditional ways of doing business anymore, right? Like, Sudhanshu's been in Kasol. I was probably in Manali for maybe 3 months, right? And yeah, I mean, you can pick a destination as long as work is not getting impacted, clients are getting serviced. And AI also helps on top of cloud solutions, right? There are a lot of them which are DIY solutions. So APIs are already available. You can integrate and that's it. That's your job starts. So lot of, I think, range of solutions available today. I think technology has been existing for many years now. I think, but rightly so, Vivek mentioned past 23 months. I think we've all just fast forwarded, to accepting it in whatever areas and challenges we've had. And change is inevitable. I think whoever is not changed or adapted, I think has gotten consumed in the past 2 years. So I think whoever is survived today, I think all of us have, moved on into the right direction. And I think it's all bright for both our workforce, our clients, and for us, right? Because clients get stability, serviced, 24/7. They're no longer space bound, location bound. They can get what they want, and gives a lot of benefits in terms of ROIs are also pretty well defined, I think. So that's my take on how it's changing.
Absolutely. And I think, again, at a point like this, we go back to Mr. Darwin and the survival of the fittest. And that's how I think we are evolving and adapting. So also, I was doing some quick research on the internet on the BPO industry a month back. And it shows that 82% of the American companies, I'm really sorry for the background noise. Just a moment.
Oh, it's a wedding, we can understand.
So
absolutely, it can't be without.
So 82% of the American companies, they prefer India as the BPO hub, or they want services from Indian companies. So I'll quickly go to Mr. Gupta right now and want to understand from you. So what do you think are the factors which makes India such a hotspot for the BPO process. What is your take on this? You're on mute.
Hi. Good evening, everybody. See, if we were to go back a decade or so, then the jury was out was India is a good location or not. But I think today there is absolutely stated fact. I mean, if you look at the workforce, we are mature. How many of us really spend on voice and accent training? I don't think so. We really spend as much as what we used to do about a decade back on voice training. So the quality of resource is one major reason, I would say. Second, the stability of the infra, which is brings in that yes, it works, and then the skill sets is add on. So these are three key factors which has been and multiple complex projects have been delivered over the last 2 decades. So I think this is a question which we should not even discuss whether today India is relevant or not. India is relevant, and we are seeing a lot of global companies hiring work from home of people who are working from India and getting paid in dollars and making decent money. So as very well said earlier, that yes, we are now a global workforce. So the dynamics have changed. Now, in this dynamics, how relevant is the cloud telephony is really an organizational decision. In a global environment, people tend to be a little more insecure still about the data security, and they continue to be because we daily realize there is a Meta or a Cambridge or somebody who would throw in some issues around there, and your job becomes more difficult to answer this question of how is my data secure. So I think this is one area which you will really have to address upfront. How are you securing the data despite the cloud-based operations for multiple organizations on the same cloud? That's one question which always prevents. We service clients internationally, and we have tried to adapt this, and our clients have resisted to move to the cloud. Now we are open to technology. We appreciate. We see the benefit. We want to use it. We understand that dynamics are absolutely fine for Indian or global any workforce. For us to be able to connect. It takes away a lot of anxiety and headaches from ours, and we transfer it now to the cloud company. But in reality, are the client environment mature to trust the data security? So that's one part which we need to address. One more part which we really need to be looking at in the cloud telephony, who owns the final delivery quality output? Is it going to be the cloud company, or is it going to be the company using the cloud infra to deliver? Because when you are committing efficiency gains, when you are committing output-based models, you need more control of the cloud. You need to be tweaking it very often. You need, and there is where another problem we face with the cloud company. Oh, this can't be done. Oh, this is not possible. Oh, this is now. How would you address that task? If it is plain vanilla L1 BPO, yes, cloud works absolutely fine. The moment you go to mature delivery environments, you will have to address it differently. Is what my experience is on that.
All right, that was insightful. So now I will quickly move on to Pranav, and I want you to maybe share some light on how, through the cloud, as we are on the topic, we can maybe streamline more than what we already have. Because as Mr. Gupta was mentioning, that clients were often not ready to like go to a cloud model. They were maybe preferring on-premise setup. So how do you think that is going to shape up, and what are the key differentiators that is going to make that change?
Sure. Thanks, Anamitra, and good day to all of you. See, I'll say that we have been compelled to change in the last 23 months. If I take back February 2020, there have been proposals come for cloud, and the conversion rate of proposal to contract was very low because most of the BPO side, they were preferring on-premise They want a secured environment where the agents or the employees should come. They don't even take their cell phones on in some of the processes. And, they just work on the system. They go back, and it was an extremely secured environment. But from March 2020, it was not that the requirement came like that to run the business, you have to be flexible. Even our customers, they became flexible. And such was the extent that the TRAI eased out on their wife's guidelines as well. So, if I take it, straight from the technology side, cloud has been a boom. And the actual realization of the cloud technology came into existence only, through this unwanted times. It is ironical, but, this unwanted time, pushed the cloud technology. And then came another challenge. Now the customers are asking for more secured, transactions to happen. Now people are sitting at their homes across all regions. And now you need to have a very, very secured environment provided to them, which should prevent any kind of data leakage, any kind of, transactions which goes out, outside of their network. So it has to be, the monitoring systems has to be in place, and it has to be very, very robust. Then came the information security side. You have to be compliant as well. So there are various tools, like we've been using virtualization now, and I know, each one of you are very much aware that I think some of you or most of you have given your guys a virtual environment, a setup which is completely secured, where they're not supposed to copy anything from their virtual environment to their local, despite of sitting at their homes and all that. But on the other hand, to monitor the endpoint device has become a major, activity for the system admins, for the people who are definitely monitoring it. At this time, we are, our work, especially on the technology, I being an IT person, so I'll say more about the technology here. So our role in monitoring the endpoint devices, our role in creating a proactive mechanism to manage and maintain any or stop any kind of threats entering into the environment. And on top of it, there are certain activities which we used to do once in a year or half yearly. The frequency has been reduced to, let's say, 2 months, 1 month. And I'll just take a vulnerability assessment and penetration testing thing. Earlier we used to do once in a year, depending upon the scale. But now even the smallest organizations are doing, the IT team is doing it every quarter, just to make sure there are no ports open. There is no, because the audit part has become a major, on a scrutiny side, the audit is very important. And now the auditors are coming. The client side audit is happening, because they want to ensure that people working in Mizoram or people working in Kashmir or people working in Kanyakumari, wherever they are not taking any data, outside the environment. And this is how we can assure by incorporating certain tools. Thankfully, there are good tools which has come up in the market to ensure zero trust, facility. And, earlier we used to talk only about antivirus and firewall and VPN to access the network. But now it's no more the story. The SASE based tools have come, which are very much cloud integrated, and that can definitely help. And it has helped us a lot. I must say, and I'll again repeat it, that in this unwanted time, cloud has gained its popularity and it has gained its relevance the most.
Absolutely. I think in terms of security as well, I think even our banking and financial services, which again, a lot of the BPOs are working with this organization to make sure the processes are in place. I remember it was late at night, a couple of days back, I was trying to transfer my money from one account to the other. And I got a call at 1:30 in the night. And a voice said, "Hey, are you trying to transfer money?" Because that transaction had failed. And yes, I mentioned, yes, I am. And he said that, hey, I'm calling from HDFC Bank. So I'm just trying to check whether you are doing it or some kind of a fraud or an issue is happening or not. Because I think in the recent past as well, though we have internet literacy, but still these issues are coming up. So privacy, security, and this zero trust factor, I think, plays a very, very vital role here right now. And with this, I'll just move on to Mr. Rajesh and want to understand from you. Uh, what do you think are going to be the permanent changes? Because we have already talked about the new normal and things getting the way how they are shaping up right now. But again, do you think the whole concept of offices would go away? Because again, organizations like yours, the BPOs, they have huge office spaces. Like it's the floors are always buzzing with calls. There's high energy there. Do you think there's some point of time that can be replicated or uh, that can be compensated in some way to make sure that uh, the people who are working in silos, right, that their morals are also high for the work that they're also doing, right? Uh, how do you see that ecosystem changing?
It's a sea of change. What these 2 years of pandemic has done. I think all in the business of digital transformation, they were pressing for the last 1 decade. What has happened in the last 2 years? But I'll quote your favorite Darwin. It's not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive, but those who can best manage the change. It is equally applicable for business and IT landscape. I mean, it's not the organizations with the biggest financial muscle or the best technology that survive. It's the nimblest one. Now, this is equally applicable for people side of the business also. In fact, I see a few major trends in the contact center world. For example, one from the customer side, digital engagement is beginning to grow. The shift away from voice to other, especially chat, text, messaging, that is also happening. Remote work, which I will touch upon, is definitely here. Contact centers have transitioned, like ours also, have transitioned employees to work from home. However, it's not all work from home. There is a hybridization of the workforce, but there is a problem that we first encountered in the first few months, where face-to-face interactions between agents and supervisors was a challenge. I mean, as you know, all BPOs have a lot of tribal knowledge that goes around, and that suddenly got disrupted when a large proportion of the workforce was actually working remotely. And of course, we had to adapt. We had to put new tools. We had to put new practices to do this. And hence came the collaboration tools. So all the small talks, coffee breaks have now shifted on to video. So how do you put that collaboration? And simplest to the task and communication sometimes become challenge. You're trying to call a colleague, you're trying to get in touch with the associate who's there. Another trend I see is AI and automation. So all our distributed workforce sitting at home. Earlier they could just tap the shoulder of one colleague there and ask for information. Now this is no longer possible. So how do you enable this? So we have seen the rise of virtual assistants to the agents to bring them at par. And that's a great leveler, by the way. And organizations are, I mean, like ours also, are set out to increase self-service automation for both customers and employees. And of course, all of this is getting very hugely powered by cloud. Now, cloud in itself, I mean, I agree with a few of my colleagues, esteemed colleagues here, where the banking sector has been, BFSI in general, has been rather reluctant in, moving some of the operations on cloud, but it's catching up. I see larger banks also now becoming amenable. I mean, they're forced to, because most of the channels that are gaining popularity are natively cloud. WhatsApp is actually a cloud. Of Facebook, Meta Messenger is essentially on cloud. However, from the contact center people side, we are seeing that we have had to change a lot of things. For example, we have to now put virtual coaches. So earlier coaching could happen in person, but with the distributed workforce, you have to do this virtually. So virtual coaches, virtual collaboration, virtual assistants, a whole lot of technology is basically, coming to our associates, and hence starts the other problem that we encountered. How do you train all this distributed workforce? So that also moved virtual. So as you can see, a lot of things have moved on cloud. Unfortunately, what will not move to cloud is the relationship that people have and the collaboration. Now that is something that we, at least in our organization, we have a hybrid strategy on this. And I see that this is something that while I agree with one of my colleagues that the hinterland is opened up, the talent is available everywhere, but alignment with organizational culture is also very important. And that's one of the key focus areas that we do. And of course, a lot of technology also goes in aiding that. So in all, I see a huge amount of, relationships moving online, a lot of AI coming in to help people, and also having all of this in a very coordinated manner. One of the key things that one of my colleagues was talking about, the security aspect. Now, one of the other things that has now become very important is the person you hired, is it the same person who is, addressing your customers? So a whole lot of different types of security tools that we also have started deploying. So I see technology playing a huge amount of role, and a lot of this is moving to cloud. And like Raman mentioned, co-browse and all these things, they've been around for a long time, but they're now gaining importance because even the customers are moving online. And that's the one thing I'd see very, very refreshingly good, because it affords multimodal interaction with consumers, customers, and of course, between people. So all in all, I see cloud adoption increasing. Challenges will remain in integrating the workforce. Strategies will keep evolving in that sense. So that's my view for.
Thank you, Mr. Rajesh. That was really insightful. And I think we have gradually seen that voice came into the picture first for all kind of communication, for a very reliable sort of communication happening. Then I think we slowly moved on to text, through emails, messaging, and all that, to the virtual assistants and all that. But I think the whole ecosystem is moving towards a more video-based scenario, right? Because we have video KYCs right now.
Yes.
So I'm really sorry. There's so much disturbance. I would go to Mr. Rashid now and want to understand from you, what are your views on this changing ecosystem? And do you think video communication and through cloud is going to stay? Because again, though we talk about infrastructure and everything, but we also see that a lot of parts of the country are not very well equipped with internet. So in that ecosystem, how do you think we can survive with all the technology, the cloud-based ecosystem that we're talking about?
Yeah, thanks, Anamitra, and thanks for having me here. See, when this whole BPO environment evolved, right, it started with the concept of manage my mess for less, right? That's how we kind of evolved. And then certainly after all of the transitions that happened, basically lift and shift and all of those kind of models, slowly, India, within the workforce within India, I think, and across, started to kind of gain market share with various transformations. We started off with business transformation, looking at business process re-engineering, and so on and so forth, where we delivered value attainment. And then, next set is the digital transformation, right? That we are currently talking about. It's close to about 2 trillion of the share of wallet that we are talking about, and that's the scale, right? So with this, this whole pandemic started, and the resilience that was demonstrated by most of the, I think, technology led the stack, right? In terms of how it was almost a flip the switch kind of a thing, where people moved from offline to online mode and managed to kind of deliver at scale at almost predictable performance levels. Now, various other aspects are starting to come in. Now, what this pandemic gave as an opportunity is more around digitizing processes, looking at what all we can deliver at scale from a digital solution standpoint, and so on, right? Every industry today is moving towards that aspect. So technology will lead the pack in terms of getting there. What I see some of the challenges is in terms of the talent crunch, right? That's going to happen because people have to scale. And since I lead across the global L&D function for HCL, so we have a lot of people joining us, and the technology stack earlier was more around people once they learn one technology, they hang in there for about 2 years, but it's not the case now. It's every 3 months, every 6 months, the client starts to refresh their technology stack, and then we also have to get that enabled. So that's one major area, right, in terms of how we cross skill and upskill our people at scale and at quick time, and also ensuring the resourcing models are in place as well. We all talk about hosting the cloud, from a voice telephony standpoint, from the infrastructure standpoint, because there's a lot of advantages digitizing the workflows and making it seamless, making them talk to each other and so on, right? And with that also has an opportunity for eliminating the context switching for agents. There's a lot of productivity increase, but at the same time, despite all the productivity mix and match, when you look at the talent is still scarce, right? We still fight. There's massive amount. Ask Barry, ask Pranav. Everyone are fighting for talent today, and who will get the best talent at the lowest possible cost to keep the margins as well at thing. So the next piece which is going to come up is the talent cloud, because what we are going to see of this is that the gig workforce will start to really kick on, right? A lot of people today, the millennials and the centennials, they don't prefer to come work. They want to make money by doing 4 or 6 hours of work or 12 hours in a week, but do quality stuff and make money and go, right? So that's going to be the next horizon on the block. So the talent cloud, people signing up, doing having solutions which are secure, platforms which will be secure for people to log in, complete the task, and then kind of make money and move on, right? So that's the scale and size that we are talking about in terms of managing this talent crunch. Because India, yes, has a cost advantage at this point in time, I would say, but a lot of other countries are catching up as well. So we have to ensure that mix and match happens. So these are broadly the contours where I think the entire industry will be focusing on the next, I think, 1 or 2 years. But certainly exciting times if you're in a technology stack, be it BPO, be it in call center, the cloud contact center, or the digital transformation, business process reengineering space. Everywhere there's going to be action. There's no doubts about it.
Thank you, Mr. Rashid. I think that was helpful. But as we are on the topic of talent, I think another important thing is that we produce, I think, almost 20 lakh engineers every year. I being one of them, and not doing anything remotely to what I studied. So I think there's a lot of learning and development happens on the job, which I'm also a product of. And with that, I also have a question from Neetu Gupta. She's talking about this whole ecosystem. I think Mr. Solanki was mentioning that when we are getting onboarded in a new role, in a new organization, often we sit around with our colleagues, and whatever challenges we come across, we just tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, can you show me how this is done?
That's right.
But that's not there right now. Even when I joined the organization, I was completely remote, and I was facing challenges because I always had to call up to understand a certain tool or how things are done. So how do you think with the tools, obviously those are there, the weekly catch-ups or this team meetings and the Friday evenings catch-ups, but often people try to zone out. So have you seen with your experience anything which has been like really effective in kind of bridging this gap?
And just, before, if somebody shares the insight, Namitra, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit more on, my question, that's fine that we can catch up on probably on the weekly meets and, maybe alternate days. Those are going to be like in general discussions or in general questions which team might have. However, I'm more talking on the day-to-day operations wherein the data entry is happening into the system for finance and accounting processes, and I have to apply the cash right away. I have just 4 hours that to just process my transaction. I'm struggling with information. When I have my colleague right there sitting with me, just go and say, okay, hey, I'm struggling with this, can you help me out? That works like wonders. Now when I do not have anybody, then I just go ahead and raise a more information required case. Now with that, a little discomfort rises into the clients and the accountants sitting across. How do we, I mean, any suggestions, how does that virtual assistance works? I mean, that was quite interesting for me to know actually. So in such scenarios also, can we?
Neetu, if I may answer your question,
Yes,
see,
Perry.
the virtual assistant is not going to be doing the job. Actually, see, the assistance you can get, how to apply this cash, maybe we can have a virtual assistant say that if there is somebody's responsibility to do it and that person is not available, and that is more or less sometimes the norm in large operational teams, that I think that cohesiveness of work culture has been a little bit off because of pandemic. Because when you had people in office, you knew that the presence was there. Bad comes to worse, they would have gone to canteen to have a cup of tea or to the smoking zone to have a smoke, or those are the 3 or 4 distractions. Other than that, you could actually nail down that person within office. I think uh, that's another key thing which has to we have to bring into the workforce at some point of time, is to how do you inculcate that uh, hardcore focus for say 4 hours a day, and then on and off you do your kind of work when you want to do, kind of a thing. Because today I think a lot of people managers who are managing processes for large clients, this is the difficulty they find, that sequentially the work is not moving forward. In
Exactly.
olden days you could just tap somebody's shoulder and get it done as well. But I was very intrigued with Jyotsna's question as well on how do you gather feedback on a virtual world on the voice of customer and things like that. I think with every call, Zoom call ending or a Teams call ending, you get a feedback on whether the call went well and things like that. I mean, rather, how was the quality of the call? If the quality, it doesn't matter. At some point of time, if the call went badly for you, however great the audio quality was, you're not going to give 5-star rating to them. And there are I think there are what do you call it, as some parameters from a behavioral perspective which can be captured. Like for example, if somebody set up a call and consistently the call is ending in 10 minutes instead of half an hour, or the consistently this person is starting the call 2 minutes late and ending 2 minutes 5 minutes early, those kind of patterns can be available now with more and more data coming on because of virtual meetings. And over a period of time, this kind of data can go into big data analytics, and you can get some kind of customer experience on how many times people dropped off, how many times people went on hold, how many times who spoke. Because right now on Teams and things like that, you have transcription, you have what do you call it, as voice recording, how many times is recordings being done. All this will feed into the voice of customers, Jyotsna, if that answers your question as well. I'll over to you, Anamitra. Sorry, I kind of tried to steal a little bit of your thunder.
No, no, it's absolutely all right. I think I was going to Josna's question the next. I think that answers it. So we
If
have
I
a
may,
question.
if I
Yeah,
can
please go ahead.
add to
Yeah.
what Barry said, Namitra, I think Jyotsna, there are a lot of today the organization invests because customer experience is the key enabler today. It's not it's transactional quality as well as the voice of customer and a lot of things at level 1, level 2, and level 3. So today the technology picks up certain dissatisfied words, right? The predictive analytics has been built into the overall conversational thing, right? As part of the NLP. which some of my colleagues were talking about. So that picks it up and then red flags it. It's not easy. People who are having that conversation, right? It's not easy to kind of move out. There's a lot of investments going on there because losing customer base is definitely, on the radar of every CEO today. Back to you, Anamitra.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for adding that. So we have a question from Unikrishnan Vasu. So I would request you to unmute yourself and ask your question to our esteemed panelists.
Sure.
Please go.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Unni Krishnan. I've associated with Ugam Solutions, into research operations. Now, I heard pretty much all of you all just have one curious question that even we are dealing with, going back to Pranav's point around the whole movement that we have witnessed from the good old firewalls to the VPNs to the Okta verification world to now completely cloud movement. In this, we still are to a large extent dependent on the biggest asset of our business is people. Still, we're still not at a point where we can do away with that and bring that less than 50%. We still have a large dependency on the people front. Now, I know a lot of us touched on that topic, but nobody really went in detail. And I think it'll be interesting if we have a little bit of time left to hear from some of you all about how do you still, in the hybrid model, go back with the new millennial and centennials out there and train them to be far more data sensitive or sensitive to data security or secure PII data and so on and so forth in their day-to-day transactions and all of that. Because today I am talking to less than 50% of those people whom I knew in 2019 before the pandemic hit, or 20 before that hit. Today, more than 50% of my workforce are people who have joined in the last 18 months, 24 months. And possibly more than 50% of that lot I have not even seen and met in person. Right now, with that as a backdrop, and this lot is a completely different generation that we're dealing with. With these two things as a backdrop, the biggest struggle that at least I'm facing right now is how do you get these new college passouts to be to the T, getting them to understand and appreciate the data security challenges. Because today or tomorrow, it has got a direct linkage to your customer and client trust index with us. The moment they see one line wrong, they'll not blink or think twice before pulling the plugs off from you and moving on. But it is so sensitive and important, but at the same time, yet very difficult for us to get the millennials to understand and appreciate that. So would like to hear a bit on that if anybody has got any inputs, insights, suggestions.
Yeah. Shall I start? Shall I?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So Vasu, I'll say that, you have to start from day one, first of all. Anything which has to be sensitized and it is critical to, the transaction we do on a day-to-day basis. It has to start from day one. Now, it is because data security is an integral part of our, especially not only in BPO, but in any domain. So data security is integral. There are tools which are controlling that, and there are tools which are definitely, and to what level, to what depth you want, it is up to the organization to deploy and incorporate that tool. But the onus lies on the user and the hierarchy, its manager. And so sensitization has to come from day one. Now, regular collaboration is the other thing. And I know many here are more experienced than me on the human resource part. I'm more of a techie guy. But I'm telling you, anything, sensitization from day one and collaboration, and keep on filling that data security part to them, in all your meetings. And wherever you see that there is a breach, even the technology can tell you, or you may get through a call recording or whatever. You have to, push that. That's all from my side, and others can add on this.
This is Barry here. Unni, there is one small thing. It's all about personal integrity at some point of time, right? I mean, that's the key factor here, and that has to be pushed and inculcated. I mean, all organizations, big and small, believe in integrity to be key, especially when we're dealing with so many different customers and so much sensitivity. So that's the bedrock on which we build our business, our value, and so on and so forth. So I mean, I don't know how much you can re-emphasize that, but I think that has to be inculcated, number one. See, for some of you who may know this, in Baghdad, there's a book market, okay? And that book market is open. All the books are there on the street, and that's it. So there's a saying in Baghdad, they say, a thief never steals and a reader never steals, basically. I mean, the thief never reads and a reader never, will steal a book, kind of a thing. So that is the glue which will make this happen, because if people feel that data is sensitive and sharing that is not the right thing, then they will never do it. I think that's one. But the guys, how much ever you inculcate, there'll be those one-off, two-off guys who will always do it. That is inevitable. That's a business risk which all of us will take, right? I think it's the key. Like, just like we tell, see, I mean, it's common sense, right? I mean, like we say, we will not. There are some parameters for sexual harassment as well, and we do a training for everybody who is coming into an organization. Organization to organization, fundamentally 95% of it is going to be same. Correct? That the structure, the core structure may change here and there,
Right.
but that's the same. Similarly here, data sensitivity, data protection, see what is confidential versus what is client confidential, internal confidential, those parameters and those definitions may change organization to organization, but largely are in that same bucket of confidentiality and data sensitivity. So I think if, as long as people understand why it's important for them, and if their faith and their upbringing and all that has been facing true north, 99.99% we are assured with non-compliance will not occur. That's my belief, right? But yeah.
Just add one point here.
Sure.
Yeah. So Uni, again, picking right from what Barry and Pranav was saying. See, this is, you mentioned these two, right? Centennials and millennials. These are the people who are Instagrammers. They don't care. Their videos are on. They do it without even knowing what's the impact, right? I think people from the 80s generation, right? The 1980s, the 90s, at least they have that kind of, what is they're very clear about gray, right? So what we have to do is we have to bring them back into the corporate culture, and the day one, it's very important that, see, a conversation, it need not be a data privacy issue itself, a casual conversation which the client shouldn't be knowing. People send that mail off, shoot that mail off, an internal email, right? I completely understand where you're coming from. And kids, and especially in the virtual environment, we don't even have that connect. So spending at least a week on sharing what is sensitive, what is not, what are the go areas, what are the no go areas, having a mentor assigned for clarifying, I think really helps. I think that's one caveat dealing with these people.
What we tried to do here, the moment the pandemic hit, we changed the supervisor ratios. We halved the team size, each supervisor, so you could spend more time. What we also did, we created an operations command center where your login and adherences and all this managed centrally by a team which is tracking what's happening right, what's happening across the board. So your supervisors get more time to spend time with the people. Third thing we did, in the hybrid model, we said soups and the support function, as many as can come to office would be preferred. Advisors can continue to work from office, because that's where the information exchange is very important. What's happening, what's not happening, especially at the interfunctional level. So that has definitely given us a huge benefit. Whatever the technology interventions require, which we all are doing, and we will do it. We continue to do it. But more importantly, am I spending more time with my guy? Am I spending tracking more what kind of work that person is doing? That's very important.
True.
That will automatically tell them that yes, there is a track which is possibly going on the wrong side. We need to catch that. And as very, very, very well said, that there will always be some outliers who will, that's the law is made for 2% people, not for 98%. So that's where I think we will have to put practices in place, announce the practices in the real world. At that time, if you were taking somebody off the floor or sending them home because of these practices, it would get to be known on the floor. But today you must announce this, announce it. Okay, this has happened and this is what is action has happened, and make so things like, we would mention that in your experience letter. Let's not be soft about it. And today everybody's doing ref checks. You tell them if a ref check is coming, then we will mention if you do something which is this kind. Don't mince word over there and be very candid about it. Try and incorporate in your appointment letter itself. These are the things, we will not give you any experience certificate or something. So these are non-adherences will ensure that you are taking certain actions which will proactively push them not to do things, because it can be detrimental for their career.
Right. And that those two are first ones that I've heard. Thank you very much, everyone. In fact, Mr. Gupta, that's a good one. I have not tried that out.
Okay.
If you wish to know more, you could come across and we can explain to you how we work. It's really worked for us. Well.
Pleasure.
Anamitra, I think before taking the final thoughts, quickly, I would request you to take Mr. Mahesh Bhatt's question. He has mentioned about on the chat box. Do we have IT infrastructure assets, classification codes, then its protection access and transmission rights policies, and finally, why Gartner still? Yeah.
So if I take it in my organization, we do have, and I see this, it was not earlier, but of late, it has been adopted by most of the organization. And if you say Gartner still cries, because on this field, we are still evolving, and we have, to reach at 8, 9, or, somewhere it will take time. See, it's again a journey which we are, going on, and it's just 2 years, I'll say. So it will take time, but yes, I see, we have discussions in the past in some of the webinars also on the same lines, and we see this happening.
Yes, so I think, Mr. Mahesh, your question was answered. So Anamitra, should I do the closing note or anything else?
I think we have covered all.
Yes.
I think we can just go ahead and I'll hand over the mic to you for the closing remarks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ekta.
Thanks,
And thank you again, speakers, for taking out time and sharing all these insights. It was really insightful, and I think a lot of us gained so much about the industry and how the workforce is going to change in the coming years. Thank you so much again.
So yes, thank you from my end as well, from Exotel and Branalytics team for associating with us. Thank you, audience, for taking out your precious time, and our thought leaders for taking out your time. I will be sharing the entire session video as well, and also reconnecting with you. I'm repeating, I'm reconnecting with you again to have one-on-one session with Exotel for a quick brainstorm where they can showcase their wonderful solutions to you guys. Yes. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a lovely weekend ahead. Thank you, Anamitra,
Thanks,
for being a
everyone.
wonderful moderator.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good and
thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
What a wonderful session.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Bye.